go.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Lindsay Green.
I'm your host, John Toohey.
And this is Invasion, the Potty Snatchers. And this week, motherfuckers, we're answering some calls. We're listening to the other side because we're going and we're scoping out The Black Phone, the Ethan Hawke starring Joe Hill adaptation by Scott Derrickson, who did an awesome job of fucking Sinister, and also with Ethan Hawke as well. I just put out put up a poster there, like he's kind of becoming the new king of horror, though, isn't he? Like Ethan Hawke.
He really is, yeah.
Because like with The Purge as well, like, you know, he's like in Daybreakers, we'll forgive him for that. But but like, yeah. So Noel, what was your exposure to this as a franchise or as a property before going into this movie?
I know, very, very complete radio silence. I wanted, I think I said to you before, is that the lowered expectations to no expectations seems to serve me quite well. So that's what I try to keep, and some things you can't escape, some things you can't help yourself because you're looking forward to them so much. Black Phone just kind of appeared in the cinema with little enough fanfare that I was like, oh, there's a new horror movie. I wonder if it's any good. But then I was like, okay, I'll check it out when I check it out. It's all good. And I think I definitely benefited from it because I didn't know what I was walking into. I didn't know if it was going to be supernatural. I didn't know if it was going to be more of a thriller, classic kind of thriller kind of feel. And I enjoyed it tremendously. I really, really did. Lots of twists and turns and interesting kind of dynamics between characters and some absolute tour de force performance for some very young actors as well. So yeah, really enjoyable property.
I think he was evil because his hat was really uncomfortable, because I've been wearing this hat for about 5 minutes and I want to murder somebody. Fucking hell, man. It's tight squeezing the old cranium is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, fucking hell. But like, yeah, like man, the aesthetics of this movie is fucking awesome, man. Like in the background, we've both got like the fucking top hat, that fucked up mask that keeps changing, kind of like matches his current state of like his mental state or some shit like that. Like it's really, really well done. That like and kind of plays in that whole fear as well, that like someone living amongst you is like a sheep in wolf's clothing, and or sorry, a wolf in sheep's clothing. That like you see this kind of thing that happened a lot. It was very prevalent in the 60s and 70s, especially in the States, that you had these people that were living in suburban areas that were like the neighbor next door, the John Q, Joe Soap, the Mr. Everyday, Mr. Everybody. And this guy has this really fucking nefarious underbelly that this living this second life. Like you look at like a Rich Kuklinski, he was living in like the suburbs of New Jersey. Ted Bundy, everyone was saying how much of a nice dude he is.
Kaiser Caesar, what was that guy? He had all the women living in his house, and it was like literally living in a built-up area in a community, and he had like babies with the women he'd kidnapped, and he hung himself in jail. But yeah, no, of course, it's the nightmare. It's the nightmare of somebody
like
just
like a John Wayne Gacy who's like helping out with everybody.
Oh yeah, like rub shoulders with like some of the like Republican elite, politicians and stuff like that, and it's the most terrifying thing. It's the most terrifying thing in the world.
Having the Republican Party come a long way since like freeing slaves.
Yes,
like they've really changed. Like they started off with their best hit.
But don't say it's progress. They would. It's not too fond of the word.
Like yeah, so like it's kind of the whole thing where like someone's in the middle of this like just this neighborhood, and he's like a fucking predator, and they're the neighborhood kids are his prey, and he's just picking them off. And like one thing that really annoyed me is like Johnny takes Finney and he just kind of lets the balloons go, and I'm like, they're never going to be finding them at the scene, like 100%. Why isn't he tying them to a fence? Is what I'm saying. Like it's like that just really annoyed me. And it's like this dude's super calculated. It's like, how do you keep finding the balloons if he's not tying those motherfuckers down? Because you know what I mean? Like balloons are literally known for drifting. But wait,
even a card or something would drift. You're just kind of like,
producers in my ear saying 100% known for drifting is all.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's Vin
Diesel, balloons at the scene. Did you though?
It's in my ear. The two best things known for drifting is Vin Diesel and balloons. They're really there, like, you know.
And I thought that the balloon thing was actually really, really quite stupid. I thought the change of the mask was absolutely brilliant. I thought that the phone aspect was so classic, kind of what I'd expect from King. And I know, I know Joe Hill, his son, but
Joe King.
Or Joe King. Oh, yeah, that definitely won't be a name to go by. But I thought
his name, like,
it's Joe King.
Yeah.
You're Joe King.
No, he's joking.
No, I think you
No,
are
no,
joking.
no, he's there.
He's
Ah,
joking.
the height of comedy. Yeah.
But I thought that this movie was really, really good. I thought it was a kind of an original enough premise that you didn't feel like it was just another like movies are tropey and nothing's tropier than horror,
Yeah.
even amongst movies. And this one kind of had something a little bit refreshing. The approach was a little bit refreshing. Madeleine McGraw played Gwen. I thought she was just phenomenal.
The little one.
Yeah.
She's a little beast, wasn't she?
Oh,
Remember,
she was fantastic.
I love the part where Finney's getting beaten up and she just jumps in, smashes the guy with a rock.
And sits beside him in the fence after she gets the shit kicked out, and he's like pissing blood from the head. That was great.
Yeah, it's just like we're out now.
Oh yeah, no. She was brilliant. She stood up. She was the one who stood up to her dad.
Mm.
And Finney was kind of like the softer guy, but such a good film. Just such a good film. It really was. Like, God.
Yeah. It had a real feel. You said pollen.
Yeah, I'm starting to get the sniffles.
You got your hay fever.
Yeah, it's starting to kick in.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying, man. That's why people can't be superheroes in real life. You get hay fever, you sneeze.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
laser eye, cut people in half. But like, so what this gave me the kind of feel of like It Chapter 1.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? This kind of nefarious fucking presence is in the neighborhood, but this kind of had a more realistic feel to it. I know I had the supernatural elements with the kids from the other side. Pretty much everything they learned from all their previous escape attempts combined together is what saves Finney's life and helps him kill the grabber. Spoiler. But like, I think that we should actually start putting like spoiler review in the description.
Yeah, spoiler review.
But like, yeah, so I'm sure what was I going to say to you? Yeah, so even though it has the supernatural elements and shit like that with the kids talking from the other side, I love the way it does actually has a very more realistic tone than like an 8 or something like that, even though it has the same kind of supernatural elements and stuff as well. But like, it is that, like, you know, it's the creature next door, or the kind of serial killer turned up to 11, whereas this is a very real world sociopath that obviously has suffered some past trauma. He always talks about the phone doesn't work, so obviously he was locked up there some stage.
Hasn't worked since I was a child.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So maybe he started hearing voices of his father's victims or something. You know what I mean? Like, just thinking about it now.
And I like the fact that it doesn't try to explain it too much.
Yeah,
I like them kind of remaining mysterious. You know,
it's just one of those things that happened.
Yeah, and you know, even just the daughter having a kind of a shining kind of ability, and the brother being kind of very remarkably unremarkable. Yeah. And the kids that were going, and when you actually look back on it, like, again, spoiler, but when you look back on it, I realized when the film was over, there was actually not an awful lot of violence in the film. He killed his brother and then was killed. Every other kid was, you know, you had the kick-ass Hispanic kid, and he kind of walks around the corner.
Robin.
Van. Yeah. And they're gone, and you know they're dead, but the actual amount of violence, it wasn't about the violence, it was about the despair. Yeah, and that's what a horror film should be before it's anything else. It should be about how it feels.
Yeah, it's because, like, in these situations that there's only little pieces. Oh, this was found here, something was seen here, that kind of thing seen there, and all the while you have this fucking prolific child serial killer that's going in and just fucking picking off kids left, right, and center, because he's so nothing, he's so normal that he's just there amongst everybody. And when you see a black van, you just see a black van, and like, it's one of those things that he could have been anything, and like, and that's what makes serial killers really prolific and really like fucking vicious and like successful at what they do, is because they're so normal looking on the outside. And like Ethan Hawke's character, like, you know what I mean, if you just take off the mask, he was so normal looking on the outside that's why he can kind of operate in amongst the shadows, and all the while he's just like picking off kids left, right, and center. And I think that's the big danger, isn't it, or the big fear, that like all of a sudden these chain of events that occur and you have no explanation for them, there's no reason behind them, except they just have one broken individual that just kind of bent so far that he broke beyond repair or some shit like that.
Yes.
And that's what kind of Ethan Hawke is. Obviously, I think the same thing happened to him when he was a kid.
He's definitely a result of trauma. He has a brother in it though, and the brother is just a bit of an idiot. Yeah, you know, it's just a bit of a but definitely had some sort of manic childhood as well. The whole thing was a game to him in a very, very literal sense. Naughty boy game. Yeah,
it's probably what his father played with him.
I tell you what gave me a chill in this, an actual chill. I thought was brilliant. the first phone call. Well, actually, the second, third, or fourth phone call, because it's that whole you don't hear anything at first.
Quick change.
But you know, you don't hear anything at first,
Mm.
or then you hear and all this kind of stuff. So, but this was the first time somebody just started talking to me. So this was the first proper communication. So first phone call in that sense.
Billy or something, was it?
And yeah, it was the kid from the baseball game.
The baseball game, yeah.
Yeah, and he kind of goes, who are you? And he goes, I don't know. I can't remember. And then he kind of I don't know, he figures out who he is. Oh, he says to him, we met once. No, you almost got me.
Your arm is mint.
Your arm is mint. You almost got me. And that was, and then he just kept saying, you almost got me. And of course, it's, you know, thrown back to at the start of the game. He got him on the third. You managed to not get struck out by him, but he came close. And he acknowledged him, even though, you know, he acknowledged him on the way by. And that just kind of gave me like that he was this disembodied spirit, kind of losing sense of himself. But he just remembers the feeling of a place or just an experience, but not even his own name. Yeah. Later on, there's a kid who's gone, and it was my bike. It's my bike lock. And what's the code? He goes, I don't know, but I knew I couldn't forget it, so I wrote it like here. And then your man's going, well, is it 23, 10, 16, or is it?
It's 33, 17.
33, 7. Yeah, you know, but your man was going, if you say so, because he just has nothing, like that's gone. Yeah. And it was just like, they're just lost. Yeah. They're just completely and totally lost. And the really manic bully. And it's it was really, really good. The guy hanging upside down and pointing at the wall. It just had so much going on in this tiny little room. They managed to, it was so incredibly haunted, but it inversed the haunting. The haunting was the help. Yeah, the haunting was to stop him.
It flies by as well. Like, that's not.
Oh my god, the film flew by.
Yeah, it's kind of as well like learning from. It's kind of all about learning from other people's experiences or some shit. It's not all like, you know.
Well, that's it. Like, one guy tried to dig out, but he didn't get there in time.
Yeah,
and you know, one person. Yeah, it's like, I know he does this, or I know he does this, or even I know the game. He can't play you if you don't play.
Yeah, it's like you can get out the vent, but you'll be stuck in a freezer, and he ends up that freezer. The meat ends up helping him. Like, he throws it to the dog to escape later on.
Yeah,
like,
he throws it to the dog, and and you know, I had that where he's strangling him near the end, and the phone rings, and he picks it up, and he just says, "It's for you." Yeah, it was so many cool moments. There was so many cool standalone moments. And the changing masks and stuff like that. I was just like, this is a fucking. Yeah. Do you remember? This is a great film. Sheila's downstairs watching it right now because I had to watch it for this, so we didn't get to. We were going to. The weekend got away from us, so we were going to chill out and watch it. And I had to watch it in here, and I was just sitting right here in this very seat. And then I was like, that can't be over.
Man, it flies. It really just flies. It really flies. Like, it's so well done. Like, I love like Scott Derrickson as a director. Like, Sinister is one of my favorite modern horrors, and it's so unsettling. And I love the parts in this, the way he shot the parts where the kids were taken, the kind of the
that 70s style.
Yeah, the home video style. Like, I just love that. I think it's such a creepy aesthetic, the creepy look. That it's kind of unparalleled, because it's like when you find out old footage of like someone being experimented on or some shit. Like, or like in Sinister, where it's played to its maximum effect, where Ethan Hawke's character, the writer, starts coming across all these home videos, and when they play out in the back and track and shit like that. So like, he's a very talented director, and like this, I don't know how long the short story is, but like what he did with it is very well done. It's very insulated story. It's a kid in a room pretty much while there's a search going on outside, I know, but the majority of the movie takes place in one place, like, and it's very well done, and it flies by, as you said. Like, it can't be over already, because like by the time Finney gets taken, it's like 20 minutes gone, I think, and in the middle part of the movie just fucking flies by, him trying to escape. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And it's you know, the story of, because it's the story of his sister as well.
Story of love.
Her name, Madeline McGraw, I think is her name, and Gwen is, I think, was her character. Yeah. But she was like, you know, when she gets brought to this principal's office, and she gets sat down by the two police, and they start asking her about her dreams and all this kind of stuff. And she's like, no, it's because it's me. I'm the grabber. You know, and she was like, no, of course. It's me. It's clearly me out doing it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I'm a 10-year-old girl.
Yeah, it's like your man, I said your man Vance or something. It's like, he was the first to get taken. He's like, he kicked both your asses. And she calls them fart knockers or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, she stood up to that. She was a spitfire, and but she was just so believable, especially when the father's whipping her. Is like, the dreams are nothing, and all this, like, repeat after me. And she's so traumatized. She's
Yeah.
so legitimately traumatized. It's such a well acted scene for somebody. So I've been so impressed with some of the younger talents I've seen lately, and I guess just the days of, if you can't do it well enough, we'll find someone who can. I think the game has been upped for very young actors, be that a good or a bad. It's good for us, maybe the viewer, but like, I'd say there's an awful lot of pressure on someone so young. But she just did such a brilliant job. I could not get over how good she was in this movie. And I like Finny, Mason Thames is Finny as well. But for me, I just her by an edge. I just thought she was brilliant.
Yeah, no, she was brilliant, and she's kind of like the resilienceness of the storyline, like, you know what I mean. I love when she's talking to God and it and stuff, and she's giving out to him. It's like, what the
Yeah.
shit? Come on,
Yeah,
Jesus.
what the fuck? Like, yeah, unless you're not real, please be real, please be real, please be real. Yeah. And then she's in the back of the car, the cop car, in her imagination with one of the kids who was taken much
Vance.
earlier, Vance.
I think he was the first one.
Yeah, and he's like, "Welcome to the motherfucking end of your fucking life," and all this kind of shit.
Is that the stuff that Ethan Hawke said to him before he killed him, do you think?
I actually maybe.
That's what I think, like
Yeah,
the stuff they were saying was all the last things he said to them or something.
I think so. That's actually good. That's a good show, but it didn't occur to me at the time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like,
And then you had Max, who was kind of the closest thing to a kind of a Joe character. This is what I was saying. It wasn't really fine film. The one character we actually seen get killed was Max, and it was kind of funny.
the brother really
Yeah,
got the axe in the head.
it was like, and you want me to tell you the story of how I found you? And like, no, I want to leave.
I hope Sheila can't hear you.
Yeah, actually, yeah. No, she's probably roughly around that part of the film right now. I went down. I went down. If before we started this, she was well into it. And I said, and she goes, brilliant. That's all she said. Brilliant. She actually said her bladder was about to explode, but she couldn't just justify getting up and walking away from it. She's enjoying it so much,
Yeah, if you're not watching movies with a bucket, I don't even want to know you.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even want to know who you are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's like you're not even taking movies seriously anymore.
yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
But this was a great movie. In fact, I just thought it was great. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I hadn't seen it before, and that's always a big thing for me, especially with horror. It wasn't tropey; it stuck the landing, which is where horrors get completely. There was no, and it didn't. I think it answered the questions I wanted answered, and didn't answer the questions I think it shouldn't answer.
Yeah,
because it's like some things are just strange and should be unexplained, and too much exposition can drag a movie down. And I thought it got its balances right. I
yeah,
thought it got its balances right. It was, for me, it's not about the violence. It's certainly not like a gory film, really, in the grand scheme.
more eerie.
That's where it was. It's very, very, very eerie.
Yeah, are you about to burst into flames too? This heat is
Oh
ridiculous.
my god, no, it's absolutely
I
unbelievable.
never regretted wearing a hat so much in my life. You know
But
what I mean?
you can't justify not wearing it now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm going to commit. Like,
Yeah, I respect
my forehead's back pressed into my ears, but like, I'm going to
that.
commit. This hat is definitely not for adult men to wear. It is extremely painful. But what you call it, like, yeah. So I know, like, I think for a very insular movie that it did a very good job of keeping us entertained and keeping a lot of moving parts going at the same time, because like instead of us just being in the room with Finney, that like we got to see the flashbacks through Gwen's dreams and stuff like that, and we got to see what happened to the other kids and how they were taken. And it gave us this kind of like it kept the story moving along, because it could have been very might have felt a bit like slower if it was just Finney in the basement locked up for the entirety of the movie. And even though like it is like a large portion of the movie, that it does a very good job of like keeping us moving along with Gwen and the investigation and her dreams, and actually giving us a window into the MO of this character. And like, man, fucking hell, imagine if being a kid and walking through a car park and just see this dude dressed like in a cape coming out.
Yeah.
Man, I sort of I'm running every time.
Oh, every single time.
Every time.
Like every single time. And like step out of a black van in a mask and ask a kid if he wants to see magic. No,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to see magic.
I'm going to show you some magic. You can watch me disappear as I run in the opposite direction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as I run for my goddamn life.
Yeah, man. Fuck's sake. But do you think it's strange though, like that he like Robin didn't leave a mark on him, or that dude with the curly hair? Like, how come like his His story was where he was getting dropped off by the cops, but was at that house. What was that all about?
I think he was a minor, so they were bringing him back to his. Yeah, actually, no, that's a good question. No, they
Maybe
would
he
have been
just
bringing him back to his parents, were they?
maybe he just lived down the road from him. Maybe.
Maybe so. Yeah. Or like there was an empty house across like the road where he was burying the people. Like did he? I don't know. Actually, it's a good question. I don't have the answer to it. For
You
you,
know
to
what I
be honest.
mean? Like he wasn't related to him or anything else, you know. So
No,
I
no, I
don't
don't
know.
think there was anything like
I
that.
don't. This fucking heat is frying my brain, man. Jesus
I
Christ.
tell you though, man, it was I wasn't expecting it to be this good. I hadn't heard anything about it. You never mentioned.
Yeah, like I seen it in the cinema, and I was kind of waiting for it to come out, and then you said to me we should do it covered soon, and luckily it came out like the week later to fucking stream or whatever. We totally got this legally. Yeah, 100%. Of course,
Support the artist, folks.
of
Support the
course.
artist.
I went see it in the cinema, so I did.
You actually did. And I
Yeah.
went to, I'm seeing it on that streaming service. I'm hoping it's available on.
HBO, Mac, Netflix, Prime,
Yeah.
plus Disney.
Plus Disney, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think this is one of the better horror films I've seen this year. If not, maybe the best horror film I've seen this year. Maybe it's up there.
Yeah, it's
I mean, it was really, really enjoyable. It was really, really eerie. It really didn't fall into any of the tropes, and I liked the ending. And
yeah.
very few films that do that for me these days.
And as I said as well, like you take out the supernatural elements, like it is a very realistic movie. Like you know what I mean. It's just about a kid that was able. It's kind of like if you take out the phone calls, it's kind of like if the evidence was all around him and he slowly started taking it apart from the evidence instead of the phone calls, it would have been exactly like a really realistic movie, you know, that kind of thing. That like he just started coming across the code and stuff like that. But like,
Yeah,
and there was
evidence from kids.
yeah, and then them leaving warnings and stuff hidden around the place.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah,
Like, you know, so you could have told the exact same story without the supernatural element, but I do like the supernatural element. It's kind of like because you kind of feel like the kids got some justice, like they got some revenge on
well,
him.
yeah, and they were part of they helped take him down.
Yeah, exactly. Because everything they learned is what pretty much saved Finney and
Taught him how to fight, taught him how to like
yeah,
they prepared him, taught him how to make traps, and like
mm.
kept him going, like you know, just kept him going.
Was it
And
raise it, take a step back, swing, raise
yeah,
it,
raise it, take a step back, swing. Yeah, and oh god, it was such a yeah, and you just felt so much disgust for like the bad guy is always extra. We always say, you know, when a meteor hits Paris like an Armageddon or something, and it's complete and total wipeout, but it's a special effect. You don't. It's a special effect. You don't feel anything for an individual person. It's just this huge scale. And you always feel it to build a fleshed out character. And these kids were actually fleshed out posthumously.
Yeah.
You know, and then you just felt so much rage to the person who killed them because you got to know them this a little bit through like small ways. And then it really kind of built up Ethan Hawke as the grabber as a bad guy, as a real evil motherfucker. And I thought, and then you get just that crunchy death, and you're just
yeah. I loved how sad it was about the little paper boy. It's like Billy or something, and he's like he's saying how he's invisible for years anyway.
Yeah,
before he was taken, like you know, and like it's kind of like he preyed on kids that came from bad homes, pretty much, or had a hard life or something. That's what it was like, because that's where he came from. He was pretty much abducting his younger self and killing him probably over and over and over again.
Something like that. Because the bad boy game. What was it called exactly?
Naughty Boy.
The Naughty Boy game.
Yeah, which no, to me it kind of sings of like something that was done to him, and he'd become his father and turned other kids that reminded him of himself, that weakness he thought he saw in himself, his younger self. And he kind of what he projected out into the world, and he took these kids that probably reminded him of himself, these kind of kids that were alone or they're outsiders or whatever, they're causing trouble. Like you had one kid that pretty much no one could see, like the paper boy, and you had one kid that was kind of tough. You kind of took two tough kids that were kind of from broken homes or whatever, like you know what I mean, or whatever, you know what I mean. So it's kind of like he saw whatever he saw of himself in the real world, he was trying to take that and kill it. And I think that was because the same thing probably happened to him. Like that scene where he's just like sitting on the chair with the belt in his hand.
Yes.
And he's just like fucking seething, like, you know what I mean? Like, because he won't come up and play his game and shit. Like, it's just.
But he has to, like, by the rules of the game that he himself invented, he has to come up with his own volition. That's like first and foremost. Yeah. So the frustration would be absolutely massive.
Yeah.
Because it can't be any other way. because it's not like he couldn't just go down and attack him or drag him upstairs or whatever it is he wanted to do.
Because that's not the game.
It's not the game.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of this if you don't play the game? Apparently, the game itself was the point of the whole. So yeah, or even when he goes up there and he looks, when he stands when Finney goes up and he tries to escape that first time, and he's standing in the room and he's there, but he's asleep in the chair. But there's that 1 second where they're literally just standing facing each other, and then he just gives him a kind of thing, So he kind of scrolls on by him, and it's just it was really well shot. It just it had that uncomfortable feeling, and that's why I love horror. I've said it a lot of times. It's a comfortable way to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it's like a roller coaster is a safe way to be scared.
Yeah, vicarious fear.
Exactly, and you just get to feel something that that can kind of push you to the limit, but in a very safe way. This film was eerie, just eerie as fuck. And at the end of it, I was just thinking, like, God, I don't think, like, sitting here in the room and just watching it on the TV, I was like, God, I would have given it a bit more fanfare. I would have, like, got down, got a few drinks, sat with Sheila and watched it, because it deserved it. It was a really, really good movie, And it's my own fault I let the weekend get away from me, but I still enjoyed it massively.
Yeah, like the Black Phone, I can see it hitting the same kind of levels, like maybe not as it, like in terms of its budget or box office, but I think it's going to be a massive mainstream success, and it already kind of has been. Like, it's like, I think it has like all the moving parts to kind of live long, and like kind of like with Sinister, that I think we should hopefully see Scott Derrickson do more horror, because he seems to be able to capture a real eerie story, and he has a very unique and distinctive style. And he did like a really great job at Sinister, and he's done a fucking awesome job in Black Phone. And like, just how fucked up like Ethan Hawke's character, the Grabber, how he came across, and how much he was hiding in plain sight. That like he even had his brother staying with him and shit like that, and his brother was investigating the case, and he still didn't know until he copped on all of a sudden. Like, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like that aha moment that I'm sure so many people have had throughout the years, when they've realized that a loved one's a serial killer, or a neighbor, or someone that lives down the road from, or some shit, that you have that kind of aha moment, and all of a sudden you see beyond the kind of the mask. It's very literal in this, that he's hiding his true self or whatever. But like, it's just fucked up, and it's happened so many times in the 60s and 70s in America, especially, where you had people that had this weird aha moment and realized that they've been living near or next to, or they had a loved one that's a fucking monster all this time, like, and he was just hiding in plain sight, because he's so very adept at being one thing but hiding actually what he really is. And that's happened so many times. And I thought Ethan Hawke's portrayal of the Grabber encapsulated that really, really well, where he was able to fucking capture that one thing that like a lot of serial killers have, where they're able to just hide in plain sight, and they show this fake exterior to the world, while they're just like hiding this fucking monster within. Like,
and whatever you see them out in the world doing normal things, they're just doing what needs to be done so they can get back to their passion, and their passion is something so monstrous that's barely imaginable, but it does happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the supernatural element was the supernatural element, but people as twisted and fucked up as the Grabber have existed, and that's you have your supernatural, but that's not what the horror is the Grabber.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the supernatural part, again, like I said, the inverse, the haunting thing. The haunting was the help.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely a refreshing horror movie.
Yeah, and I hope there's no like, oh, the Grabber survived and received Black Phone Part 2. I think it needs to stay where it is, because
and I think I think the premise itself, of a Black Phone in that particular seller, bar a prequel, man, and Jesus, please no, please no. Well, you did a good thing.
Yeah,
leave it fuck alone.
You don't need a prequel, because the first 5 kids, them dying, their sacrifice, all were led to Finney being able to escape.
Yeah.
So like,
and they got their pound of flesh. They were involved in it,
Yeah, and they and all the last words he heard were them, like, as well.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Before Finney's like, it's like Finney's arm is mint, and he just fucking breaks his neck. He's like, broken arrow, Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I liked where he fell through the little trap, like he kind of like Home Alone them with, like,
his fucking leg, man.
Yeah, and he breaks his ankle real bad.
Yeah.
Like the horrible pain of that. So I like it wasn't too quick a demise because he was a particularly reprehensible character. So his death should have been pretty reprehensible, you know?
Yeah, and I love the way how quickly it just unravels for the grabber, because like oftentimes that's what happens in real life, that like it seems like they have it together, but because like when you like often like, you hear about serial killers and how often they were nearly caught, that it's just a matter of time before it all unravels, and when it starts to unravel, it unravels wholly. And that's what's happened for the grabber, because as soon as his brother found out, he's like, oh, he's an idiot, but he was my idiot. And he's completely unraveling because he's not thinking straight after that, because when he kills his brother, he kind of escalates the game to the next level. And that's what makes him like fall into Finney's traps, because he's not thinking right and he's completely unraveled. And like it's really fucking well done. And I think it does a great job at making a really new and unique serial killer, and having telling a really new and unique story, but at the same time playing with a lot of classic tropes. And that's what you can really only ask for with modern horror. What's your final thoughts? We get the fuck out of here.
Final thoughts was this film is one of the best films I've seen this year in terms of horror, and that I would recommend it to anybody. I think it's refreshing. It's something a little bit new. It flies by, and it doesn't really it doesn't bog itself down in exposition or anything like that. It's quite often juggling two storylines, but they're both moving along so consecutively that it just does not feel like it.
Yeah,
it's a well directed film that was well written and well acted in.
Yeah,
and that's the trifecta, and it stuck the landing. It was a good ending. So yeah, I just more of this, please.
Yeah. What? No more Black Phone.
No. But like the popularity of this kind of film, can only breed more of these kind of films. Just maybe not another Black Phone.
Yeah,
like you don't need to go with what's the
I'm just fucking
Paranormal Activity. Don't Paranormal Activity.
Yeah,
please.
Black Phone 6, Ghost Dimension.
yeah.
But
Black iPhone, you know.
Jesus Christ. I can actually imagine that.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Like, right. So we need to get out of here because I'm about to explode from this fucking.
Same.
This hat is crushing my fucking head.
And I need to get a fan back on, and I'm gonna play some Red Dead Redemption 2 because I'm very late to the party.
Very nice. Fucking love that game. All right, folks. See you next time. I'm your host, Vince Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Tui, and thanks. Subscribe and like and listen on Spotify, and just like us in general. We just weren't hugged. One of us wasn't hugged enough, and one of us was hugged too much.
Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Say this shit at the end. All right. This Invasion Party Snatchers. That was the Black Phone. See you next time, motherfuckers. Peace. Don't get into black fans of guys dressed as magicians. I'm saying. Bye.
Yo, she bitch. Let's go.